Hi, I'm Dorian Lam, and welcome to Start with the Close in Mind. As an owner of a title company and a seasoned real estate professional, I've seen firsthand how focusing on the close is the key to getting the results you want. What I've learned over the years is that this principle doesn't just apply to real estate, it applies to business, strategy, and life. Each episode, I'll share the tools, insights, and real-world experiences, both the wins and the lessons learned, that have helped me and others achieve our goals. I will also bring on some of the most successful business minds across industries to uncover how they approach deals, decisions, and success by starting with the close in mind. Welcome to Start with the Close in Mind. Let's dive in. Today, we get the honor of speaking to Josh Wilson, founder of Smoothstone Capital and former host of The Deal Scout, which is where I met Josh. I was fortunate enough to be a guest on his show many years ago, and you guys should listen today so you can understand how Josh helps bridge media, credibility, and market positioning for companies. What listeners will learn today is how that message and narrative impact deal making. So without further ado, Josh, welcome to my show, Start with the Close in Mind. Could you give everybody a little bit about your background and your journey to Smoothstone Capital?
Yeah. So Dorian, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening in, you are like listening in to the defender of the deal. Like Dorian and I connected, I think like 5 years ago on a podcast interview. The podcast was called The Deal Scout. Still great. We've exited that brand and it's transitioned and it's evolved better than what I could have built it myself. So it's a really great show. You know, just a little bit about me. But first of all, grateful for you and for all your audience listening in. Hello, everyone. So I'm Josh Wilson. I'm in Florida. First of all, man, I'm a believer of God, and I believe that I was put here for a special mission. I think that's to be a connector of people and opportunity. I'm a husband and a father of three, and I'm a deal maker through and through. So I'm a deal maker who kind of got into the world of media by happenstance and, you know, a lot of failure. I've merged those two over the past decade of trying to figure this out and how to make money doing it. I've merged the two, and it's been very impactful to the groups that we work with. Happy to share kind of the journey in it, but, you know, just a small bullet point recap. We've built more than 20 different podcast shows and brands. We've sold a few of them. I think I've done more than, 2,200 or 2,300, maybe closer to 2,500 interviews over the years of doing this.
So impressed.
Well, hopefully I do a good job for you today. It's easier interviewing people than being interviewed, but we've done a lot, and it's kind of evolved from my start in building my first one in the world of health and fitness. I was building a tech company to what I'm doing now is in the world of investment banking, and I've had some morphs and journeys along the way in terms of real estate and commercial real estate. So yeah, it's definitely evolved over the decade of doing this.
Yeah, what a better person or no better person to ask in terms of just even with the philosophy of starting with the close in mind. I mean, 2,000 plus interviews. I mean, again, applause to that. I know how hard that is and just how much work that requires. But what are the types of things that you learned from interviewing all these types of entrepreneurs and investors?
Yeah. Holy moly. What have I learned? The things that resonate with me, like as I'm screwing up again or I'm going through a failure or something, some of the wisdom that was shared is, one is start with the end in mind. Why the heck are we even doing this? So many people will come to me and be like, hey, I want to start a podcast show. And I've heard that probably, 10,000 times. I want to start a podcast. I want to do this. And I go, why? Well, my business partner told me that I should have one. Okay, but why? I don't know. So let's just say they go down this path of starting up a podcast. And I don't want this interview just be about podcasting, because I think that's just only a small piece of this whole pie. But, they'll go through this whole process, start up a podcast. And then what happens is 10 episodes in, they realize that it's distracting them from their work. And they realize how hard it is to find good guests, to edit, to create the content, to share it, to distribute it, to how to get the people to show up on time, how to do all this stuff. And they quit episode 10. So there's thousands of podcasts with less than 22 episodes. Alex Hormozy said this, and I didn't fact check this, but if you do more than 22 episodes, you're in the top 1% in the world for podcasts. So all you have to do is get more than 22, and then you could be a top 1%er, according to Alex Hormozy.
It's an amazing stat. I didn't realize that.
So you're almost there, man. Like you guys are doing awesome jobs. Yeah, I think starting with the end in mind is such an important lesson. And it's the book you wrote. It's the reason you started the show. It's the reason I said yes. Even though we had a relationship, I was like, man, this is such an important thing for people, especially, entrepreneurs and deal makers to really have this viewpoint of what does the exit, because we all exit the earth. It's guaranteed we're all going to exit this earth. So you might as well start thinking of why. What are we going to do here? And, why am I doing it?
Yeah. And, you were elaborating on that thought process, the why specifically in terms of, what's the purpose of the show? Why are you doing it? And it's, as a good rule of thumb, it's always, you've heard the 3 whys, right? It's like you ask why 3 times and you have to be able to answer all that so that you can have some level of focus and concentration. And you just spoke to just the why in general, right? That's a good, transition into Smoothstone Capital. How did you go from the Deal Scout to Smoothstone Capital?
Yeah. So there was a lot of iterations. There were a lot of failures on the path to get to where I am now. So like it has not been an easy path. It has been ridden with a lot of failures, bankruptcy, moving back in with mom and dad. A lot of times, I've seen a few vehicles leave on the back of a tow truck. I've seen eviction notices. So like the world of deal making in entrepreneurship is not an easy one to learn. There's not a very clear path that has been shared with me, especially with the value proposition or the strengths that I have. For me, it was a hard time trying to figure out my identity and who I was, and which led to probably a lot of the failures and the pivots. So how did I get here? Brute force, piss, vinegar, and failures, right? My vision and my purpose and why I'm doing this is because I'm on a mission. I feel like, to be generous and to give money and to bless people, you have to have it. So if I want to give more, I sure need to learn how to make more.
Yeah.
Right. And I love, I love that generosity, and it's one of my core values. So the Smoothstone kind of evolved out of a few pivots that we did. So we had and this is where you and I met. We were doing a lot in the world of real estate. I'm a real estate broker, investment banker. So for disclosures, everybody, I'm a real estate broker, investment banker. So none of this is financial advice. Go talk with your attorney or your financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. Right. But Smoothstone Capital kind of evolved from what the world that I was in, which was, real estate, commercial real estate finance and real estate deals. And we would leverage media to kind of find deal flow. And because of the media, the podcasts, the YouTube shows, the LinkedIn work that we do, we were able to put together a couple $100 million worth of deals in commercial real estate.
Amazing.
And it was awesome if they closed. So like we built this massive pipeline, but they kind of like leaked through the pipeline, and we realized that our model was definitely broken, and that cost me a lot of money. So that's where I pivoted into working with some family offices, and I got some mentorship by people who are much smarter than me. And they started looking at my skill sets and looking at what I'm doing and how I did it in the media space. And I learned a little bit about the capital markets. I learned about buying and selling businesses. I learned about taking companies public and doing IPOs or SPAC. So, one of the family offices that I worked with, they said, you should become an investment banker. And I said, great, what's that? I didn't even know. I'm the only investment banker, I think, please check this, in Ocala. I might be the only one. So like nobody told me what this was. So I kind of went through these processes and out of this pivot from just commercial real estate into the world of investment banking, I wanted a brand and a name of a company that kind of fit what I felt. So do you want me to give kind of like the meaning of Smoothstone Capital and why I did that?
I mean, think about it. You were talking about how, brute strength and piss and vinegar, right? These are the qualities of just, honestly, it's about being able to thrive in the world of entrepreneurship, right? These are all the fundamentals that you're going to need. You're not going to always have the answer to things, and you're going to have the wherewithal, not so much wherewithal, you're going to have the fortitude. That's a better word, to push through it, right? And to come up with a name like Smoothstone, given things like brute force, I'd be interested in hearing about Smoothstone Capital.
Yeah, I'm grateful. I love sharing this story because it's a story of a tiny guy who went down to a brook, and he chose, it's a biblical story. He chose 5 smooth stones because he was up against a giant. And for me, the giant in my life, there's been a few giants in my life, but one was my own failures, my own weaknesses, right? So this the future king David walks down to the brook, chooses 5 smooth stones, and then he goes and he takes down some giants, Goliath, and he chose 4 other stones for 4 of his brothers, right? It's a really great story, and I resonated really well because here's this little shepherd boy who plays, the harp or guitar or whatever it was back in the day, taking care of sheep and picking up sheep crap, went on to become king. And it's not that I don't think I'm called to be king, but like I'm really good at investing in people and seeing people's value proposition, and I'm good at building kings. So like I wanted my name and brand of my company to focus on the underdog, to focus on the strategy, focus on the guy who takes down the big giants or the big deals. So Smoothstone Capital was birthed out of that biblical story, but it resonated to what I was feeling inside and what I wanted to accomplish in my own life. And the goals that I have for me, my family, and my future.
I obviously don't know that biblical story, so thank you for educating me on that. It's very cool. The story of David and Goliath is obviously very well known. I didn't realize that there was a Smoothstone component to it, so that's great. And then also creating kings. I'd love to hear how the power, it's one of the things you get in on, but in creating kings, tell us about the power of media in deal making.
Yeah. Man, I love that question. Great question, Dorian. And you'll learn as a podcaster, like one of our favorite compliments is like when someone says "great question," right? So, Dorian, that was a great question, man. You're good at this. So, the world of king making. I know this is a little woo-woo for people, and they might have a little bit of eyes rolling, but this is who I am, man. I've got it. Like this is what drives me. It's built upon my strengths, and it's like a part of what keeps me going forward. When I try to apply my strengths to my own business, nothing happens, or sometimes it even goes backwards. When I apply my strengths to other people and their business or their mission or their technical capabilities, their businesses take off. Like it's crazy. It's this crazy paradox of like, I can't fix my own business, but man, I'm good at like working with technical people who are great at selling businesses, investing in businesses, doing IPOs, doing strategic financing, doing all these things. Like I'm really good at working with them, and I'm really good at helping get that information out of their brain and into a conversation, whether that's on a podcast show or YouTube show, or maybe it's just a group call that we're doing with a strategic partner or client. So, what I found is, as air quote executive producer, is I'm really good at highlighting the strengths of these very technical, very smart people who are corporate attorneys or family office leaders or investment bankers or, fill in the blank. And they have a hard time of communicating or sharing the story like you and I were talking about, or building relationships with people. So I come in and I do that with and for them. So someone might ask me, hey, Josh, talk to me about how to figure out the IRR or EBITDA or this or that, right? Like, yes, I passed my Series 79, but I don't remember any of those formulas. Like I would have to look it up or get my calculator. So it's like, I lack the technical capabilities of like actually figuring those things out. But man, I'm a part of a team who they do that with their eyes closed. With our powers combined, we're really impacting these companies that we're working with. So that's one of the things that I also learned is teamwork, man. I hate being a solopreneur, a lone wolf. I used to think that was a value proposition. Look at what I could do, and I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And I had this like wide breadth of things that I would offer to people, and it made me weak. The value proposition was weak because it was diluted.
Yeah.
So now Smoothstone Capital is narrow focused.
You have, great complementary perspective, just being a real estate broker, having participated in capital markets for real estate, now investment banker. Applause to that as well. I mean, that's not an easy task and you got it done. But you also recognize the fact that your skill set, what really you help draw out, is the ability to use and implement media as a complement to what companies ultimately should be considering. And we discussed that earlier on with regards to how do you exit your business? What's your succession plan? Like, what's the legacy that you're building? Most people just think about the very technical aspect of that in terms of EBITDA and IRR and all that. But then how do you kind of add fuel to that kind of fire with regards to telling the story properly and getting people to buy into that?
Yeah.
So keeping with, what my show is about, which is starting with the close in mind, what are some of the things that companies overlook in terms of just how to use media, or even from the investment banking side? Speak to the other investment bankers out there in terms of just what are the things that they need to consider with regards to messaging and reputation alignment that you help through media?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to give away all our super sauce to the other investment bankers, but I will say this, man, is people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Trust is such an important thing. Is, can you do this for me? Now, for a lot of business owners that we work, we're lower middle market. Like, that's our sweet spot, 10 to about 100 million. We could go up a little bit higher in terms of revenue, but like, that's such a sweet spot because, you might have first generation of builders. This is their blood, sweat, and tears, the biggest asset that they've ever worked with in their life. They might have their own self-directed IRA or 401k, whatever the case may be. But this business that they built is their baby. They might have lost relationships because of this. They might have missed their kids' sports games because of this. They might have regrets because of this business. Like, this business has what they poured their life into. I grew up on a construction site digging ditches with my dad, right? Like, I know the hard work that a founder of a construction company lives through every day, learning payroll, learning how to deal with OSHA, learning what kind of hats people need to wear or shoes they need to wear, right? Like, I understand how hard it is for these owners out there. And then they have to go and one day sell their business because their health's failing, or they're being pulled in another direction, or they're losing their mental capacity, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
There's thousands of scenarios.
It's a reactive situation, a reactive sale versus a proactive one, which is what you kind of promote.
Yeah. So here's the tip for other bankers out there. Hopefully you guys, serve these people well if this works for you. But these people are looking to places to have some of their questions answered. Like, you have to put yourselves in the shoes of these owners. Their number one priority might be, as I exit this, I want my employees and my other partners to be taken care of. They become my best friends over the last 30 years of doing this. Mm-hmm. So if you're just throwing spreadsheets at them, numbers and valuations and empty promises or whatever, and you're not hitting the core motivation and the core pain point of what they're really dealing with, is they might be set for the rest of their life. But their secretary, they want to make sure that this person is taken care of with the new acquisition. And if they don't feel like they're going to be taken care of, then they will die trying to protect that vision or those people. So, like, I think empathy is such a powerful tool in media and addressing those questions, right? Is, hey, how can you take care of, and this is a great YouTube clip, is how can you take care of your employees post-exit beyond you? What's the best thing you could actually do for your employees? Maybe get out of that seat, maybe to exit. Yeah. Maybe give it, maybe there's ESOP options, or maybe there's a private equity group that could take them higher, or a strategic buyer that can give them the next 10 years of their career.
Interesting.
So I think empathy is a powerful tool. I don't want to call it a tool, because I don't think you use it. If you're using it as a tool, you're manipulating. Empathy is a powerful gift you could give to people, and really understanding like what they're going through. And then your media, if your media is doing that in an authentic way, and that person hears it, watches it, their kids share it with them or whatever, they can see you, they could hear you, they could maybe get some advice, they could research you, and they've done a lot of the homework before even having a call with you. I could cold call people all day. I've done it. But when they reach out and they say, hey, Josh, I watched one of your videos and you answered one of the biggest questions I had. Can you help me maybe walk through this? And I go, cool, let me bring in Jude or Scott or Chase, or let me bring in one of our strategic partners. Maybe bring in Mike, right? And they could kind of take a look at this, or Christine, if you need to, whatever, right? So like, my skill set is the creation of that and the connection with people. And that's why I created Smoothstone.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is the biggest tip in terms of why you should have a media thing. It's for that reason.
Yeah. So let's reverse engineer this a bit, right? But what are some of the considerations, even from a timeline perspective? So for those in the middle markets, when are they kind of caring? I guess you're going to say you should always care about your story, but when are they caring from the perspective of an exit or a sale or secession? When should they incorporate that element of storytelling and media?
Man, to be honest, I think you should be doing that all the time. Because the story you tell is one thing, but the stories your employees tell, your vendors, your clients, the story that they're telling is the reality. Perception is reality. So you can be a part of sharing that reality with them, or they could do it without you. You get to choose, right? And people will try to hire a PR firm, and that's fine. And you could try to adjust or address the public view of your company. but that might be reactive or it might be manipulative, right? I think you should always be a part of the conversation. Storytelling is a conversation. It is not a monologue, right? It's not just me telling you what it is. It's letting other people share that too, through testimonials, through conversations, through, like, I made this mistake today and we had to have a call with one of our clients and we recalibrated because I was off, right? If we didn't allow the media to, to create that conversation, I might have missed the mark and taken them down a path that wasn't good for them. So I think business owners should always be including their strategic partners. If you have investors, you have to do this anyways. It's called investor relations. So I just think and I know some people are private, and I know that there's IP, and I know that there's, defensible things that you don't want trade secrets out there, but you don't have to share that. You could just talk about, highlight your employees.
Yeah,
You
I think you're.
highlight someone, it could be the best day of their life, Sorry. Go
No,
ahead,
no. I
Dorian.
was
I
gonna
got
say, I
excited.
think your point that is every business is already a story. So what you're encouraging is to tell that story. You control the story. Don't let others control that story, because that is a point that resonates in terms of
Mhm.
if you're not telling the story or shaping the story, somebody else is. So
Mhm.
I think it's for people to recognize that the importance, first of all, of recognizing that they control their own story, right? And that
Yep.
they should be communicating that, especially in cases where they're either looking to grow, that
Mhm.
they're looking for either exits, or like you had said earlier on when you were introducing yourself, if they are even considering IPO and SPACs and all the things that investment bankers do, right?
Yeah.
So I always like to ask this question, right? What is something that people misunderstand about what you do?
Yeah. Well, I've been married 16 years, and some days my wife still doesn't know what I do for a living. So I think it's this stuff with clarifying my own value proposition is hard to do. So, over the years, is I think what people get wrong is clarifying your value proposition, right? Clarity trumps persuasion. My friend Flint would say that clarity trumps persuasion, right? And confusion like destroys conversion.
Mm.
So I think some of the things that I think other people are getting wrong, myself included, is the clarity of the value proposition. So I'm getting better at it. And what I think it is we help mission driven investment groups and like family offices, private equity groups. We help them with deal flow and media relations, building relationships with your ideal clients. And that's kind of become our sweet spot. We're getting better at it, but like that's where we do really well. But I think it's one of the biggest challenges people have is sharing their value. Like, what is your value proposition? That's hard to do.
Yeah, clarity in your value proposition. That's really good advice right there. You
Yeah.
know, we're going to start wrapping up, right? So in
Yeah.
that, what I always like to ask this too. It's what's one key takeaway that you want every entrepreneur, every business owner to hear?
Well, I think as a business owner, you carry many hats, and man, that's kudos to you, and much honor goes your way for taking the risk and doing this. You might have been forced into it. Maybe you didn't have a choice. Maybe it came out of desperation because you got laid off, or maybe it was handed down to you, from parents or whatever. But you're a business owner, so you wear that responsibility. You're responsible for a lot of mouths. You're responsible for a lot of families. You're responsible for a lot of things, and that is very hard to do. I think ask yourself this question is, why am I doing this? Why am I continuing to do this? Because every day you still do something, it's a choice to do it. And I think that sometimes the biggest nugget we could take away is I might not be the best person to take it to the next level, and I need people. So if you really care about your employees, maybe it's time to bring in maybe it's time to maybe exit it. Maybe you're getting to the point where sales are decreasing, or you see that on the horizon or whatever. Maybe you're running out of juice or energy. Man, I just see a lot of people hold on to things for so long. Your identity, here's the golden nugget. Long-winded way to get to this. Your identity is not wrapped up in your business,
Yeah.
right? You are more than just your business and what you've built.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack from there, but it's funny that it brings us back to kind of the beginning of this episode, which is what's your why, right? So that's a good way to kind of frame it, to channel, and give the credit to, Simon Sinek. It's what's your why, right? Spend some
Yeah.
time with that. I have, and I know you have. And it's one of those things where I encourage every business owner, I'm sure you would as well, to understand what their why is, because it does lead again to what you just said a few minutes ago, which is that it helps with clarity of your value proposition. And that's,
Yeah.
one of the keys. Josh, it was awesome catching up. I appreciate
Yeah.
you for your time. Today, we learned from Josh how media and storytelling offer clarity and preparation, and with the intersect of not just the pure investment banking aspects of what we've known, but that you can mix it with media to help tell the story and to help drive success in middle market deals. So again, thank you, Josh. Where can the audience find you if they want to find you?
Yeah, go to LinkedIn. We could share that link with you, Dorian, but it's, if you look at Joshua Bruce Wilson in Ocala, Florida, that might be a good place. Smoothstone Capital is the name of my media company. We focus on media relations. So it's kind of a hybrid, the middle marker between public relations and investor relations. That's kind of our sweet spot. But that's a good place is LinkedIn. Reach out to say, hey, heard you're on Dorian's show. And that way I can thank Dorian for any net new people that in relationships that come my way.
So what a guest to have as the final guest of season 1. Thank you, Josh. I hope I get to that 1% of podcasters, and we'll reach out to you and give you kind of the credit for the inspiration on that. But again, thank you to the audience, and thank you, Josh. Everyone be well, and always start with the close in mind.